we
Hey
are
everyone,
already.
we're
We
back.
just showed up.
You're back.
Mr. Brolin in the comments already.
All right.
On. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Automotive Podcast. Podcast where you don't have to build model cars, but it sure does help. I'm here with my usual crew, Mr. Chester, Mr. Svensson, and then down here in the bottom right, Hollywood Square, is Mike North of Northwind Customs from the fine state of Idaho. He's going to be our special guest for this evening. We're going to talk to Mike a little bit about his journey in the hobby from when he started, and of course the big title there is 3D printing. Mike has over the years run and has restarted or rerunning his own 3D printing business, also Northwind Customs. So we'll talk a lot about the 3D printing hobby that is within the hobby of model cars. And yeah, I think that'll be a fun episode for everybody tonight. I haven't, well, last time I saw Mike in person was in Las Vegas Nats, but I haven't seen the rest of these guys for 2 weeks now. So, Mr. Tester, what's been going on the last couple of weeks?
I'm working on the PZY Ferrari SP3 furiously. Got the body painted, and I've been working for a week on the carbon fiber. So, but yeah, and side project is the Aston Martin Valor. Put that in paint and cleared it.
That's looking sharp too. I saw your pictures that you posted on Facebook. Looks awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, speaking of 3D printing,
Mike, have you seen that file? Have you seen this file from Audrey?
Yes, I have.
So very amusingly, there's now several people building that all at once.
Yeah,
you started a trend without even realizing it.
I think everybody printed it like first day.
Mr. Sean, what's been going on the last couple of weeks?
I'm working on box art for Mobius. So I think I just this past week I posted the artwork that I finished for the Wrecker, the 72 tow truck, and started work on I just finished the decals. So working on the instruction sheet. I also started work on the 72 custom 4x4 long bed pickup. So I'm in progress on that. Got parts on my workbench behind me, so that's in flight. But yeah, let's start working.
James, do you have the box art picture to show everyone?
Oh, but I was too busy not actually having it ready to go. There we go.
There it is.
No, I thought about it. And right as he started talking, I was like, oh, I meant to download that. I didn't download it when you sent it to us because you were like, don't show this to anybody. It's not public yet. And so, whoops, I forgot about that. Right. Anyway, there you go.
There it is.
Now, when you did this, because I had mentioned it. Was this a inverse of your area code, or did you think this wasn't an area code?
So that was funny. I meant to put my own 614 area code on there, and I didn't even realize I had not put 614 until James pointed it out. I'm like, oh, he said that's Iowa, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, it's gonna be Iowa. So I actually put Iowa license plates on the decal sheet. So Iowa cool. It is. Iowa, Ohio, it's all the same.
I thought maybe you're just doing like a riff on the 614 because, driven through Columbus enough. I know what the area code is for our work out there. It's like, oh, ha, ha, ha. He flipped it, and then I went and looked. I'm like, oh, crap, that's actually a real area code.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be really cool. That's something I'm patiently pacing a hole through the floor for. Not that I'll build it right away anyway, but just because, as I think we've all stated on here a bunch of times, to have an actual legit real tow truck.
It's a super nice.
Everybody at Mobius and Pegasus should line up and we'll run down the hall and high five them as we go by.
Yeah, it's a nice kit. I was happy with how the box art turns out. It's one of those things where, for Mobius, I don't get any direction. Well, the deal I have with them is I do the art direction as well. So I have a lot more freedom to kind of do whatever I want to do, and I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do when I started it. I just sort of was like, I knew I kind of wanted to do something that would be a little bit more atmospheric, because I wanted to show the headlights on and the siren on, and I sat down to do the artwork, and kind of I ended up looking up some reference pictures of tow trucks, and I found one that was it was on a rainy night, and the ground was reflecting the colors of the vehicle and the sky, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. So I was trying to get that sort of feel, and I think it kind of came.
I can see that now. I can see that now. Yeah.
I
So,
like it. I like it.
It's a little more expressive than I typically do. Often do things that are a little bit more, realistic. But I wanted to do something.
I like it.
Impressionistic.
I like it. I think it looks better than the one that you didn't do. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
Mike, your thoughts on a real tow truck?
I like it.
Too close to work?
It the only thing that I wish it had was that it didn't have the chrome on it, that it was the base model of the truck instead of the high level. Just a thing that I don't think you'd see a really fancy tow truck out in the fleet at that point. Not that, I mean, you don't have any choice in that matter, but I wish they had just a bone stock 72 instead of the fancy model.
Yeah,
fair enough.
That's what sanding sticks are for. Sand the trim off.
Exactly.
The great thing about model kits is you can build it however you want. You can make
this
it
is
work.
true. This is true.
All right, Mike. Well, I don't need a 3-year update since the last time we actually saw each other. So, what have you been up to on your bench here in the last couple of weeks?
I got the Mines R34 painted.
I'm going for the blue one.
So, I always thought that they were white or black only. And somebody posted pictures of the third test car, which was blue. Like, oh, perfect. I've already got the paint, and I don't want it to be a white or black car. Perfect. This is what I'm going to do. So I hurried to get it into clear before I left for vacation last week so that it could set all week long and get nice and hard. And now I can continue on with it.
Works out well for you. Good planning. That is good, Jay.
Is that the Oshima kit, I assume?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is bar none my favorite R34 is that Mines one for some reason. It's very just simple and plain and BBS wheels, and it's not like 9,000 pieces of over fender tacked onto it like the MCS and some of the other top secret ones. It's very understated. And, it's a series of mines, right? There's the R32, the R33, the R34. Technically, there's a GTR version of it too, but that's of the mines cars. The R34 is my favorite.
That's a tough call because the R32 was such an epic car on the performance side of it, and then the 34 is just the very stylish version of that, but you could also get the RB28 with it. It can go both ways, but I would stick with the 32 myself. But I like 32s more than I like 34s.
True. Maybe my feeling is more on the model kit side, right? The R32s are Fujimi kits. They're not all-wheel drive cars, and although at this point there's a R32 out of Hasegawa, you can just take those. Yeah, just take those wheels and the decals out of the Fujimi kit and throw them on that instead.
Yep.
If you were so inclined to care, because so many people are going to lift your car up off the ground and go, hey, that doesn't have all-wheel drive on it, but I'll know it's there, right?
That is true.
I like Z2.
So, Mike's... Yeah.
That's my favorite, with all the over fenders and all that good stuff.
Well, it's the thing is, like, the Z-Tune is like that's a very accessible to me a kit, and everybody's built a Z-Tone.
Yeah.
I've seen so many, and everybody builds them silver. They were all silver except the one that was midnight purple, and I think I've seen maybe 2 people build that one, and it's just a kit you see everybody do.
Yeah.
I have nothing against the car itself. I think the car itself is fantastic, but like the model kit it's like a rite of passage. Everybody's built the Supra, the Mark III Supra. Everybody's built the Castrol car is a road going car, and it's like the Z-Tune's something that everybody's taking a whack at some point.
Sean, you need to get up to speed, brother.
I know what a Skyline is, and I've seen Fast and Furious. Beyond that, I don't know.
We'll have Sean into a whole suite of Skylines here before the end of the night. All right, so we'll go reverse order here. You were out on vacation, but prior to that, you will consider 3D printing. Anything you've purchased recently?
I got a shipment of cars in from Aoshima. I didn't pay for them,
Nice.
but I got them. My daughter and I are part of Aoshima's newest campaign, and
Cool.
they
Very
sent
cool.
they sent each of us 4 snap-tight kits and 1 kit of our choice. So I did 2 R33s, I did a Lamborghini and a 400Z that I did progressively more 2 each time. So one of the 32s I built 100% out of the box, the way that it was designed for a kid. Next one I painted and I just polished the paint on it, didn't put any clear on it. Did some interior color. Third car I did was the other 33 that I did custom paint. I lowered it. I did all sorts of stuff. And the 400Z, I put a wide body kit on, which that was an interesting thing to downsize the wide body kit to 132 scale because it's so much smaller. And it worked and it went together really, really well. And then my choice kit was the Liberty Walk Aventador, which I had a blast putting it together. So it is the most recent build that I finished, and I haven't really purchased anything since then. That it is.
Very nice.
So there's 4 different colors of blue on the car.
Oh, really?
No decals. It's all paint.
Zoom that thing in.
Yes, master.
Very
I was trying to get it in
nice.
there, so it's all on the screen there.
That's cool.
Very nice.
It was a fun kit. It was really fun to put together, and I really enjoyed that one.
I'll say, hang on, I got better pictures of it. Well, that's a great picture of it, just in general. But I have like actual pictures of it. Let's do this. I cropped these, and they came. Now they're out of order of the way I downloaded them. So that's why I couldn't just go picture to picture. But yeah, that's I know the stance is built into these because I have one of each of them at this point. But like that's very nice and low and aggressive, and
so
I don't believe those are the factory rims there, are they?
Yeah, they're the factory wheels.
Oh, they are? Okay.
The only thing that I did to them, I painted the centers the same candy blue that the majority of the body is, and I carbon fiber wrapped the lips of the wheel.
Oh, wow.
And it turned out really good. So in its setting right now, that's the like medium height setting. So you could tip the camber in, and you could basically put the front splitter on the ground with the adjustability feature of it, which is really fun to work with and is in no way accurate at all.
When those kids first came out, James and I, we hemmed and hawed. He's like, "This is cool. I'm going to buy it." And I'm like, "Nah, that's suspension. I don't know. No engine, blah, 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 blah." And I ended up with a couple of them too. So
yeah, that's a pretty cool kit. I would get one of those.
The
tires, the Aventador, you could see the engine through the back hatch there. So there's a top.
There's a top. It's hokey, but it works.
Yeah.
The tires are really, really weird. The amount of angle that the tires have on them, it's unnatural to have that much.
Oh,
They're
they
very much
cone,
the
they cone
touring.
inwards, right?
Yeah.
The cone on them is just it. I swear it's probably about that steep
Okay.
across the face of the tire. It's weird, but it works for the car. They fit on
Right.
there really nice.
Yeah, that's an awesome looking model. So you said there's no decals. So that's all airbrush and
That's
paint.
all airbrush and tape.
Nice.
The only decal that's there is the license plate, which is one of the zoom on embossed license plates that has the raised portions for the numbers. I absolutely love those, and I try to put those on as many builds as I can.
Huh. I saw those on the website and always kind of wondered what they looked like. Good stuff, though, huh?
They are awesome. They're awesome. They do have an Idaho plate, which that's special for me because not many cars have an Idaho plate.
Right.
And then I just pick the plate that is going to match the colors of the car that I'm putting together, or a contrast color enough to where it stands out. Yeah, that's how crazy those tires look.
Went the wrong way.
Now, if you sanded the tread so they were like completely worn bare on one side, it would sort of be like.
Well, you'd be sanding the outer shoulder, not the inner shoulder. That's the weird part about it.
Okay, so it's opposite of like how it would actually wear.
I was say if they were sitting flat to the way they're designed, they'd be cambered like on that kind of angle where they're like this one where it's leaning that far over. The back one doesn't lean quite as far over. It's not quite, it's a wider tire, so it looks a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, there's probably, what would you say? It's probably a good 20 degrees off of center, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
At least.
I would say that's easily a 20-degree camber. But if you had a car that had airbags on it, independent that way, and you tucked all the way in, that would be probably about where your camber ended up.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not inaccurate. It's just funny looking. All of I was going to start to say the new BMAX touring cars, they all have slicks like that because they it helps lean them in a little bit and give them a little bit more of a low profile look. But so you've been that may have been something while I was off of headphones there. So you've built one now. I have that one. I have a Hurricane. I have a Murcielago. You like them? Like they're I mean, it's an expensive Venador. Like it's $10-15 more than the full detail glue kit is. But if you were going to build the Liberty Walk one, you're either printing a body kit or you're paying $90+ for the old Hobby Design or $180 for the full Hobby Design kit. So by comparison, it's cheap.
So the kit that has the opening doors on it, that is detailed to the max, I wish that you could get that detail with the wide body and the wheels and an accurate suspension in it. I really think that would be a huge thing, and I would pay extra to have that type of a setup, I think. But when you put the car together, it is like a 1.5. So you got your snap tights at a 1. It is a 1.5. How it goes together, it took virtually no glue to put that together. It had the Mylar stickers in it, which, believe it or not, I used more of the Mylar stickers than the water slides because of the way they went on. Because they were thick enough that they actually gave the look, especially on like the front emblem. It actually is thick enough that as it sets down in there, then it goes back smooth. So it fit the depth very well.
All right, so the follow-up question to that would be, since you're in this new program, which is where I was going with it in the first place, is you've built the 132nd scale snap tie kits. this month we're going to get the first of the 124 scale snap type kits. You're going to get that 70 GTR, but this is that next step. So in your mind, this is a logical thing, right? It's not a huge leap. It is, especially if you didn't paint it or anything else like that. That it's a linear progression if you were a new person to the hobby, not necessarily even just a kid, just anybody.
Exactly, and that's how I tried to take the first 4 kits that I had and go with that linear progression across it, because I could have, and I had access to. They said you can do anything you want to. You can detail them up how you choose. So I could have put all sorts of resin in any of them, but chose to do that linear to show the progress through it. And I hope that it helped some of the beginners that are in that group to give them the confidence to take that next step and to try something different, try to detail something a little bit differently. So I'm looking forward to the new GTRs that are coming out. So we're supposed to get those, I believe, next week.
That's cool. That's cool. They wouldn't have given them to Tim Custom and said, do whatever you want with them. That's for sure.
Tim would have took those fenders and put them on that Oldsmobile convertible he's working on. I like them just from the sense of I'm lazy and not having to put a resin, body kit onto something, because like the Murcielago, like the Aventador, yeah, there's $180 full detail hobby design kit of the newer version of that Aventador they put out, not the 25th anniversary one. But if you wanted to build a Murcielago Liberty Walk, you're buying a hobby design kit and hoping the resin didn't shrink in the last 10 years since they made that thing. And
or you
I think they make a Hurricane one.
Or you just print off the wide body kit.
Well, yeah, you could, sure, if you had a farm of printers behind you like you do. But that's, it's in one piece. There's no fitting anything. A lot of the Hasegawa stuff or the Liberty Walk R35s, you've got to, cut out your wheel wells to make your fenders fit. So it's very nice in the sense of, for the lazy person who just wants the look of what Liberty Walk is. It's it's a little pricey, but you're paying for the laziness. That's anyway, I really wanted to get that opinion off of you, because that's what I've been trying to drive with those things when I do the videos about what's coming out. It's like it makes sense if you look at their whole overall, it is a next step, for somebody who's a real modeler. Oh, it's not a real model and this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, but that's not really what the point of that is. It's they've got this layout of things. We 132nd scale snap tights, and then we're going into 124 scale snap tights, and then after that, well, you need something else. So, I mean, is Liberty Walk the thing? I don't know. You could argue about whether or not over fenders are a wide spectrum interest pattern, but still, I think for what they're doing, it fits in what they're doing. So, be that as it may.
And
yes, Tim Customs, Liberty Walk 64 olds.
And it's a very attractive wide body kit on the Aventador as well, because they have some that are not as good looking, but that one really looks good on the car.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Nismo R35 in the 124 snap tight. That'll be the one that I pick up, because I've been wanting a new GTR for a while. The Aoshima just sort of petered out in 2018 and has an update. Well, the Liberty Walk kit technically has the new front end on it if you didn't cut the fenders off of it and didn't put the over fenders on. But I want a new GTR. Yay, come on.
I hope that comes in my package, because with the way the program works, you get a choice in the first shipment and a choice in the last shipment. Anything else throughout the year, you don't get much of any choice with. So they unveiled that one. They unveiled 2 other 124 snap tights and that GTR. So I'm hoping that those are what shows up.
All right, Sean, I know you didn't, but did you buy anything since we talked last?
Not a thing.
All right, Mr. Tester, is there?
I'm trying to think. I don't
think I
bought anything
right before we went on 2 weeks ago. So you're.
Yeah, I don't think I bought anything.
You got
but I
your
have stuff
Corolla,
coming.
didn't you?
What?
Your Corolla. Your Temu Corolla came in.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, the Alpha model GR Corolla. I bought that.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I ordered it so long ago, and it wasn't Temu. It was AliExpress.
I know.
Yeah, but yeah, it was only like 152 shipped, which is pretty good. That's cheaper than sticker price.
Yeah, I was slightly offended. I paid a great deal more for mine that came in that crunched up box. I got my SP3, so yay. We realize that James is ferociously building his SP3 right now because what's coming?
Yeah, the 2009 Good Smile car. That's about a week and a half off. It'll be here, and then I'll have to
Yes, that's
get
right.
on that
So
one.
now for everybody who enjoyed his Resin Z4, we have another Resin Z4, which I have one coming in that box as well. So
James,
poor James.
what did you buy?
Well, like I said, I got my SP3, and then like I got I should have took a big picture of them, but I got all of those
The
Quinta
Quinta.
Studios 3D, the 3D decals. So I got the NSX, I got the 911 that goes to the new tool from a year or two ago, Revell 911. I got the R32 for Mr. Tamiya's version. I got the Hummer, the H1, the Meng kit. And then I have the 300ZX for the, I don't know. Everything is fizz and focus, but maybe, yeah, but this is the Tamiya one. Quinta has, or Quinta, or whatever they pronounce themselves. They're Russian, so I'm not going to argue with however they pronounce themselves. They might throw a turnip at me. They have done a set for the old Eschi, Italeri. I think even Revell Germany did at one point. That Mercedes G-Wagon, the old 80s Mercedes G-Wagon that they did. It's a very, very basic set. It's like 8 pieces of decal. I guess it makes the dashboard look better. I mean, those are pretty basic kits to begin with. They're doing one for the Tamiya 88 Turbo, the old Snap-Tight kit that everybody has, the 911.
Okay.
I believe I talked Mr. Frank Model Work into buying a set for every one of those that he plans to build. So,
and what's a 3D decal?
We showed those a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, these are. I mean, I don't know that they'll actually even, no matter how good or bad.
They're decals with layers, so the raised detail looks amazingly 3D.
So if I can get this out of here, and then let me turn this on, and then we'll do the tip of the camera down again. Ugh. Come on, focus. It says never, but you can kind of see like there's a sheen to this. Like it's impossible to. I don't think. Well, there you go. There you go. That'll focus on. See how the buttons and stuff are raised. So it's actually a 3D contour to these.
Interesting.
Very, very cool.
And so you have to sand off like all the detail on the dashboard to get them to fit, obviously. But then, the 3D, it's in 3D. So this will do right-hand or left-hand drive. I appreciate the fact that they have the cigarette lighter and the radio buttons on the correct side of that center console. And they've got a little bit of a sheen to the instrument panel that would be there in real life. It's always one of those things we think about replicating but never really do on a model kit, right? It's like, how do we get that clear thing over the gauge clusters? And you can see like there's even with the center stack, like the radio's shinier than the surrounding pieces are, and it's very cool. Very, very interesting technology. It's something that the plane guys have had forever. Like if you went to Quinta's website and just pulled up what they do, 99% of it is airplane cockpit interior. Cockpit interior is less redundant, but yeah, their cockpit sidewalls, all the av glass that all the navigation stuff that's in your, center console. Because a lot of the decals that are printed by even Tamiya, they're kind of in an active state. The screens are turned on and stuff like that. And most people build their models on, with the canopy up. And if a jet is sitting there, all that navigation stuff's turned off because none of that stuff's plugged in. So that, and then
That's pretty cool. I've never seen those kind of decals before. You guys are always showing me stuff I've never seen before.
I picked up the 2023 version of the Miku decals from Spot Model, if you can't tell. For anybody who hasn't heard and cares, which I know is like one person and watching, Lau got cease and desisted by Good Smile Racing on these decals. He offered this set, and he offered a set for the 2018 10 Hours of Suzuka. And so, while he still has the decals, if you beg and plead and ask real nicely, they're no longer on the website. So, that's unfortunate, but sort of is what it is. They wanted the equivalent of $10,000 in upfront licensing to even discuss whether or not they would license it further. And it was like a base of $3 a sheet license fee, and we only printed 500 sheets, and I don't know how many of them we sold already, but so it was obviously just easier to pull those down and pretend they don't exist. I'm not sure how that'll affect Wenbin in the long run. I'm assuming probably not, because they'd have to go into mainland China to find him, and Hong Kong is still in that funny little realm where the Chinese think they run it, but it's still underneath British Commonwealth rules and a lot of it because of its Hong Kong's history of being a special administrative region. So is what it is. I don't know what's going on with that. The other sort of adverse to that, and it was something that Brol and I were talking about, was the fact that it seems like Salvino's JR with those new Indy cars is not going to sell them through hobby shops. The only way you're going to be able to buy them is through Salvino's JR directly. And Salvino's JR is blaming IndyCar for that, saying that the IndyCar won't allow them to sell it that way. I know I'm part of the club and all that stuff. That's not something I've heard it in passing, like listening to one of their little weekly shows, and I thought it was just like, oh, he must have misspoke when he said that. I don't know if Indy's really the blame for that. I can't see where it does them any good to only sell it, through their own website. That's going to, significantly limit the amount of people you're going to get through the door, basically.
Right.
I mean, could be beneficial to the guys that are in the club because we can order them for less than they were going to retail in most hobby shops. So I guess we could all buy a whole piss load and start our own eBay stores with that. But I don't know. That's an interesting development, I guess. And I know they're selling them in hobby shops overseas because Japan was, a huge orderer of those. What the heck's his name? The Japanese driver that they were doing. So I don't know. It's very, very amusing turn of events.
I bet that those things are like a small fortune in Japan, though, to import them.
You figure the MSRP on them is $84 here. They were going to be 64 in hobby shops. If your hobby shop actually gave you a halfway decent discount on them, we could buy them for 63 through the club.
I bet they're over $100 there.
Oh, easily. There's the ones that are on eBay right now. People from the club who are reselling them, they're selling them for 75 plus shipping, so that works out to be over $90. So
right,
it's a very dooming way to sell something that expensive. Like I don't understand that, because they wanted to do a new Indy car every month because that's it's a spec chassis the way the NASCAR is. So the only difference is GM or Honda power. I don't understand the point of releasing 4 up front and then 1 every month after that if the only way to get it is through them. Like I don't think you're gonna. You might sell 1, but you got to be a really huge fan of IndyCar to be paying, $84 a piece plus shipping every month, and I don't know.
Right.
I'm interested to see how that works itself out, because that's going to be weird if it doesn't work itself out.
So, Mike, let's talk about your Northwind Customs.
So I originally started because I bought some wheels from a guy online, and he didn't send me my wheels, and it took about 4 months to get my money back. And I said, you know what, if you can do it, so can I. So I bought my first printers. I found a couple of YouTube videos on design that went slow enough that I could follow along, and chose that program because I built a wheel that way. And that's kind of how I started out, was doing wheels, and I did a couple of engines and stuff like that, a bunch of commission stuff for design. Self-taught. I'm a mechanic by trade, so I see a lot of how the parts go together, but how to put them together digitally was a really big challenge. So I have since then learned a lot of how to design stuff, and definitely got a much faster workflow than I once had.
Do you use Blender?
No, I use Fusion 360.
Okay. All right.
Blender is one of those that as soon as I turn it on, my brain goes to mush. I don't grasp how it works.
Okay.
So
because that's what the Geary uses, and I try to use it, but I gave up.
Yeah, I downloaded it. I went into it and I imported a model into it that all I wanted to do, because Blender is the one program that you can take and thicken things with. So this came into a problem of trying to downsize a STL of a Chevy Rally wheel that was drawn in 1/1 scale at 3/16 of an inch steel. Well, when you suck that down to 1/25 scale, it's just too thin to print. So I probably spent 3 weeks trying to figure out how to make this wheel thick enough to where it would actually print. And I ended up giving up, and I just designed one that I knew would print.
Gotcha. Yeah, I grabbed some car files of cars that I like from gaming sites and whatnot, but I can't really figure it out. So I'll wait until I can have some time to figure it out.
It's kind of a hard one to. Yeah, it's a lot of trial and error on a lot of that stuff. Trying to get it to where they're thick enough, and I found that it was just faster to draw it out and go from there.
Right.
So some of these are my design. Some of these are designs that I'm authorized to sell. The engines are designed by Motoboss.
Good stuff.
He's from Italy. It was interesting with the language barrier that we had, but I love putting his designs together because they are so detailed.
Yeah. I don't own any yet.
They're definitely fun. I kind of stuck to the pro touring side. That was kind of my bread and butter, as you would, of what people were asking for and styles that they wanted, and especially taking OE wheels and just blowing them up bigger.
Okay. Speaking of bigger, James, can you make the screen a little bigger?
I can try to zoom in a little bit on this, but it's going to only get so. I'm just using his website and sharing that.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
For anyone who would be, so we'll go through a whole big thing of Mike's career here, but for anybody who's interested in Mike's current product line, this is Northwind Customs, all one word, .com. So
yep, that is the new website.
That'll get you to this fancy schmancy sales facility here, where you can pick up your T37 wheels or something along those lines.
I really like the T37s.
So do you find it better to print for sale or to design for to print file or to sell files?
It can go both ways. So if you design just for the file side of it, the buyers just come in as they want. If on commission, that's a completely different story. They're telling you what you want. That's actually the easiest way to do it, is to commission a design. In the store, I put in things that I think are going to be good sellers, and then I get in a run, and I'll spend a week and just print up a whole bunch of stuff and then put it on the website and just kind of stalk it through that way.
Okay. Yeah. I like the idea of making money when you sleep, you know what I mean? And not trading time for money.
Exactly. It's much easier just to get authorized, do it the right way, and get permission to sell the files, because then it's the only work that you have is the work of producing it. You don't have the design part of it, because some of the designs, they really do take a lot of time.
Well, I imagine. I don't know on Andre. I don't know how he puts these things out so fast. I mean, it's like every 2 weeks he's got a new design out. He must have a team or something.
He's crazy about some of the stuff that he does with the files, and he's really good to talk to. If you have something that you want, he will move it up the list of things to do. He is not, and there's also a big language barrier there because he's from Ukraine, and but he does everything that he can to try to get you what you want. They're probably a little thicker than they should be at times, but they print out so nice and they fit together so well.
Yeah, I agree. Sean, I'll get you I'll print you you want that trophy truck.
Yeah.
I'll print you a trophy truck.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, there's so many cool things that are available in 3D printing that they're just, you can get any other way. It's really opened up the door to a lot of unique subject matter.
It has, and if you can design as well, it takes the scratch building part of it kind of out of it, because you scratch build it in digitally instead of physically. So there's different ways to look at it. Some of my favorite builds are ones that I found this part, modified this part to fit to where everything would work. So
it is the great part about that. If you can get around it's not even around though, because everybody goes through the warm up of figuring how their 3D printer prints, but it is the ability to have anything at this point, either commissioning designs or finding the designs. I mean, there is if you really wanted to go through the process of learning a CAD program to design your own parts, and it is the digital equivalent of the old car adage of how fast you want to go, how much money do you want to spend. This is how detailed do you want to make the stuff, how much time do you want to invest in it kind of problem. But it is, theoretically speaking, almost endless the things you could do with it. It's not quite there on printing clear parts or and things of that nature.
Windows.
Quite yet. Windows, at least. Yeah, you could usually print headlights and stuff like that, but not so much the glass.
So one of the cars that's in the pictures that I sent to you does have printed glass.
Is that the Porsche?
Nope. It's a
Subaru. Subaru. All right. Well, it's like, give me a hint here. You sent me 30 pictures. All right. Let me pull this up.
I could get you more if you wanted.
Oh, well, I'm sure you could.
When you print clear parts, do you just polish them to a high gloss finish, or do you clear coat them, or how do you finish them?
It is a pain. So you have to print them vertically, which means you have the hardest step lines as they print out because everything is parallel and you are taking a maximum bite out of each level. So you have to print it vertically, and when you have a window that is curved this way and this way, it is almost impossible to get it to where it prints out clean and clear. And then as soon as you put it in the alcohol, it immediately hazes. So what I had to do with this one is I printed them, and I printed them 3 different times before I was happy with them. Wet sand them up to, I think I went to 3,000 is where I went. Then I clear coated them after that. And that's how I ended up with those. I've since bought a vacuum forming machine, and that by far is the better way to do windows.
Yep.
Let me pick your brain on that. So I borrowed a vacuum former. I haven't played with it yet. But how do you make the bucks for your windows?
So the way that I do my bucks, I take the window and I lay it flat on the build plate. Mm-hmm. I go with heavy supports at 100%, and then just make sure the support doesn't go over the edge of the window. I pull those back, print it, wet sand it. Usually you're probably good up to 1,000 grit. You don't have to put any more clear or anything like that over the top of it. You can if you'd like. Then you put it in the vacuum machine, get it warm, drop it down, make your window.
Okay. Easy enough. Thank you.
It is super, super simple. The machine's like $70. I bought the dental machine, and it works perfect.
Thank you. I needed just that little bit to make the buck.
So that's what they end up looking like. And
what size PET G do you buy?
I think I bought, I'll have to look here in just half a second. And these are the bucks. So I just take and print them out. And then you just set them on your build plate, or you set them on your vacuum thing, get it warm, suck it down, and pop your windows out when you're done. I think it's 30 thousandths.
Okay.
It needs to be bigger than 30. So I went probably 40 thousandths on those.
Okay.
Is what I did with those. And they work out really simple and really nice. And these are for the Porsche. Is what these ones. This is front and rear for Porsche.
Yeah. I think you could make a lucrative amount of money just making windows for people like me who don't make windows.
The hard part that comes into that is getting them to be the right size.
Okay.
Getting them to be the right size. So this car.
Oh, yeah. Because if you print it and I print it, it may not be exactly the same.
Exactly. So that's one of Andre's files. I bought it the day that it came out. Built it just as the box, or just as the parts came. That's the box art for the kit that I provide.
Oh, cool.
This being a Porsche 911 GT3 RS for the uninitiated.
Yes.
It looks good right out of the printer.
So that's on a 12K print bed.
Okay.
And I print differently than others do. So the old way that it was always said you're supposed to be at like 30-degree angle or something like that. I print mine flat on the build plate.
What?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
All
Put it
right.
flat
You
on
gotta.
You do have some lines in it. Wet sand it with 400 first, 1,000 after. You're good to go to paint right after that.
All right. So, what I've always heard was, say anything that's parallel or perpendicular to the thing. So if you go here, anything here is going to get lines. Anything here is going to get lines. Excuse me.
So the problem that I've found with putting them at an angle is now your lines are going opposite of the way the body lines flow. So being as my lines are going with my body lines, I can hide most of those as I sand instead of having to be aggressive across the top rail or the top of the fender here, where it was a flat line all the way across. All I have to do is roll this way to get it to where it's smooth instead of having steps all the way up it. So it sands faster, prints faster. And
it prints a lot faster, I'm sure.
I print a body in just under 3 hours.
At what level?
3.
3? Wow.
Yep. That's where I found my happy medium of time to productivity.
This Aston Martin was at a 33 with a tilt, and it took 15 hours at 0.02. 15 hours just for the body.
And if it would have had one little wiggle in the house, it would have offset, and that 15 hours would have been wasted.
Yeah.
So for me,
I'll have to play with the flat.
Flat is the way to go. Make sure you've got a medium or a heavy on all of the bottom edges of where the fenders come down. Make that sure that's super solid. And other than
inside,
that,
I assume?
No. So you're going to want a medium heavy here and a medium heavy here. And then the rest I do all with light supports.
Really?
Yep. Lots and lots of light supports.
I've noticed my FEP, I have a 4K Anycubic, and my FEP will pull a light support, pull the piece right off the light support.
Put more on.
Maybe put more? Okay.
More. So I use Chichu Box because I have Anycubic, or I have Chichu machines. And my percentage range on bodies, I do it like 87% in light support.
Okay. All right.
Other than those heavies.
Interesting.
And what kind of machine are you using?
Goose. I've got a Saturn 2 and a Saturn 3. But they're...
James?
I have an Anycubic Mono X2. It's a 4K. He's got the 12K.
112, 18.
Okay. Yeah, I think I need to get sponsored by Anycubic or Saturn or something.
I've never even looked into trying to do that.
I think it's a good idea. You get the newest stuff.
It might be a good idea.
All right, Mike.
Tim, you got a 12K too. Go ahead.
Well, so we were talking off air about your progression, starting out with FDM printers and going through this. So, technical question, because this has always been something that James and I have been discussing recently. You've seen the progression through the Ks, as it were, 4K, 8K, 12K. If we got into a point of 12K where that's going to be 99% good enough for everybody, like, I don't know what the next step beyond that is, because there has to be a diminishing return at a certain point with the layer lines. Like, they're only going to be able to get so small, and for what we're doing, that resolution is only going to, it's like a camera. My camera has 75 megapixels, but on a screen it's only going to show a picture. It's not going to, that fine line, that fine thing is great for if it's going to blow it up to the size of a wall painting or something like that. But for a small piece, resolution, again, it just diminishes return over time.
So my first printers were Anycubic Photons is what I had. Small build plate. When I got my first Saturn, that was a 4K printer, basically double the plate. But when you looked at your pixel sizes of it, it was the same amount as my 2K printers were. It was a lot faster, so it was more efficient that way. With the 8 and the 12K, they've just come so far on that. But like you said, I don't know that there's that much more they can go, because you can only go so small. Really, what I think a lot of it now is going to be advancements of automatic tank filling, automatic tank heaters, things along the lines of that I think is going to be the way that they go from now. There was a startup on a printer that I have yet to see materialize, but it was a continuous print printer. So you would have 0 layer lines because it was a solid one print as it went. Very, very small, very, very expensive on the Kickstart, but it didn't ever materialize, and I have not seen it come out since. And it had a build plate that I think was probably, less than 3 inches around. So I think that things like that would be an advantage, but for the model stuff, 12K is like perfect.
Because what I was looking at, because Mr. Tester obviously has jumped into the world of 3D printing, was like one of the printers to sort of settle at a spot. It seemed like looking at the specs for 12K and talking to the Will Pattisons and people like that do a lot of the 3D design and 3D printing, that there was going to eventually get to a point where commercial hobby printers would get to a section that, like, quality of life improvements, what you were just saying. Exactly. That's what the next thing is going to be. Because it seems to me one of the biggest obstacles to the concept of, one day we'll just print our model kits and Revell will sell you a file, is that Elegoo and Saturn and this and that, like, there's no industry standard of how anything works. So if, like James was just saying with those windshield bucks, you print them, they're one size. He prints them, they're another size. Sean prints them, they don't print at all because, I don't know, magic of resin. There needs to be, beta VHS. We had the beta VHS conversation because Mike was talking about how much he spent on these printers in the early days compared to what they cost now, and it just seems like there needs to be a I don't even know if there's an industry in the first place. A lot of these places seem to be like, hey, we got a bunch of parts and we threw them into this box and it made a resin printer. Oops, hey, let's sell that. But there needs to be some sort of standardization of what the machine does and how it works. Because if you get somebody who's just like, I'm going to start printing my model kits out of resin, there's a lot of trial and error to dial the machine in, and then the file may work, it may not work. And who you call Revell and scream at them because your thing didn't print, but the printer they use, it does print. So, you have the wrong printer.
Well, and if you have an inconsistency in the resin in your vat, a layer in that, it can throw a print off there too. So there's lots of factors that come into that, and I don't know that it's going to go to that direction.
Right. I
think it's great for what it does now. It's some bodies, but it's parts, lots of parts. So you can parts and engines and wheels to anything you could ever have imagined. It'll probably all but bury traditional resin casting at some point, but I don't think it's ever going to be like, our model kits are resin now. I don't think it'll ever. It may 30 years from now I'm dead and nobody cares what I had to say about this in 2024. But looking at it right now, I don't think that to me is going to sell me an STL file and expect me to print out the next McLaren Senna GTR, whatever they decide to make.
The problem that comes into a lot of that, Tamiya, for example, and you can take the first generation NSX, for example, how thin the A pillars are on that car.
I'm sure.
That is something that is going to be difficult in resin to have enough structure, because you can print thin, but you can't put a lot of weight to it. That I think that's going to be a big problem in that part of it.
Yeah, and getting the supports off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing.
Oh, good.
I think the other thing I was going to say, and James, it's like there is a lack of three-dimensionality to printing. Like one side of your print's going to be on the support side, and that side's not going to have any detail to it. So it makes printing something that actually has an actual texture the whole way around, like an alternator or something like that. Unless you print it, face down. Yeah, you've got that one side that technically doesn't need to have any detail on it because it's the side that faces the attachment to your pulley system, but there's still detail on that in real life. You would still see the coils inside the alternator. It would have to have a pulley on one side. It would have I'm trying to explain to a mechanic what an alternator is, but you know what I mean. You would see the coil pack inside of it from the other side, and that's something that a injection molded machine does. It gives you the detail on both sides of that and around the alternator. In a 3D print, no matter which way you orientate it, it's always going to have one side that's on the supports.
One side that's on the supports. With alternators, for example, in 1/25th scale, you can usually get away with 2 or 3 supports to hold that onto the bill plate without too big of an issue. I've got turbos here that have 3 supports on them. So 3 supports for this compressor housing, and they're easy cleanup on the backside. So a lot of it is knowing where your supports need to be and need not to be. And that's a lot of trial and error. A lot of trial and error.
Do you cure on the trees?
No.
Okay. I just saw you pick one off. I was like, wait a minute.
No, I do not cure on the trees. I cure. They have to be dry before you go into cure anyways. So when they come off of the printer, they go on they get cleaned, and then they just naturally air dry, and then they go on to the cure station after that.
Okay. All right. Same way.
The only time that I cure on the trees is when I'm doing hoods, because hoods are thin to begin with, and you can easily warp the hood before it goes to be cured. So I put it in for like a minute and a half cure to start, and try to set the cure up to where it's not going to hit the bottom too hard, and then I start carving it out. And it's a carve out at that point. It doesn't come off as easily as that turbo just did.
Right. Okay. Sean, are you ready to get a printer?
I just have friends that have printers. What do I need one for? It's easier. No, I think they're cool. I mean, I definitely, I see some of the comments, there's like back and forth about, whether this technology is going to change the hobby or not. My opinion is if you like this stuff and you want to explore it, more power to you. I think it's totally awesome. I think there's plenty of room for people who are just building traditional kits. I don't think those are going to go anywhere anytime soon. I think there's room for everything, and I think it's cool. For myself, I would love to be able to not just print parts, but actually would like to create stuff, because there's a lot of stuff that I'd like to model and have that nobody's either making or I haven't seen anybody offer. And even just like make them, custom stuff, sort of one-off stuff. I haven't invested in the equipment and the stuff to be able to do it, just because it's a little bit more. It's not the learning curve and the ramp up is not a, if I just want to make 1 or 2 parts, it wouldn't be worth that much. I'd really have to hey, I'm gonna make lots of stuff. I'm gonna print a lot of stuff.
As soon as you made 1 or 2 parts, you'd be hooked, and you'd want to make all your parts. Yeah.
What I'm afraid of is I would probably spend all my time printing parts instead of building models. I really want to just build models. I don't want to So at least for right now, I'm happy to buy other people's stuff and beg, borrow, and get my friends to print things for me and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's cool.
Mike, let me ask you this: since they're in your house and behind you there, what resin are you using so you're not just tear gassing the whole family out of the house with that stuff?
Well, being as I'm a mechanic, I don't have a sense of smell anymore.
I was just gonna say, or you just don't smell it anymore because of the chemicals.
So, the only time that there are complaints from the family is when I forget to put the cover on the isopropyl alcohol. That's the only time that I get any complaints about that. The resin does have a smell. The FDM printer, because it uses a cornstarch based material for it, when I'm running it, it smells like pancakes and syrup in here. So you're hungry the whole time it's printing. ABS has a really weird smell to it. I can't really put my finger on it. But the resin, I haven't had any issue. And the new printers here have filters built in.
Okay.
Just plug into the thing so it circulates the air and filters the air before it evacuates it out of the printer. So you don't really get that. They are a little on the noisy side at times. I find that the noise of the printer running actually helps put me to sleep because it's so rhythmic with the way that it makes its noise. So, but I haven't had any problems with that. I do know some guys that absolutely cannot deal with the smell of the resin or the alcohol.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's why I was asking.
But I myself, I don't have any issues with it.
It makes my nose run. It really.
Okay.
So I ran a hose out the window, and I have a box fan and a pipe, and I blow it outside in the basement.
Do you have to do any sort of special prep work to be able to before you paint it, cleaning it or you just clean it with alcohol or whatever and go to primer, or how do you do it?
All I have to do is sand it.
Okay.
Sand the lines out of it. Products that come from me are 100% ready for paint when they leave my house.
Okay.
This is let me throw this. You won't be able to see it, but everybody else will. Question from the chat here is it true you can't reuse wasted resin?
You cannot.
So,
No.
You cannot.
That was my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as the resin has been printed, it is printed.
Does the resin itself have a shelf life? I've heard that if you don't use it up quick enough, it can kind of go bad.
With some of them, yes. With the water washable resin, as soon as you open the jug, it starts pulling oxygen into it, and it will diminish what it can do immediately off of that.
Okay.
That's not the resin I choose to use because I'm set up to use that, and I guess I paint with lacquer paint, so if it's not actively trying to kill me, it's not the thing for me.
You can answer Jeff or James. You can highlight Mr. Slugo.
All right. This is the Mike North. Do you sell your 3D printed stuff? Which
I
yes,
do.
it does.
NorthwindCustoms.com.
Northwind Customs, all one word, no hyphens, no weirdness.com.
I have a flyer. What did I do with it? I had a flyer. I had a flyer. That's the key right there. Yeah, I don't know where it is. But I had one that I printed off.
I think the thing that I like so much about the 3D printed stuff is the new cars. You know, like if we have to wait for, you know, the model companies to come out with a model that you like, you may wait the rest of your life. You know, like for instance, I have an Alpine A110. They'll never make this. Never.
When was the last
It's a
time the
Renault.
model companies did a light duty pickup truck? 99? There's been worlds of advancements in Ford, Chevy, and Dodge pickup trucks since then that the only way that you can get it now is resin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the problem with the large manufacturers, they have to actually pay licensing to be able to replicate these things. I mean, everybody in their 3D printing is just like, it's almost too small for these companies to kind of try to send a cease and desist letter to every little tiny, you know, thing out there. So you're free to get away with it. Now, it's arguable whether it's ethical or not, because you're replicating somebody else's intellectual property, and if you're selling it, you're technically in violation of IP laws. But you know, whatever.
There are ways around that with the small business.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I really like.
There is a lot of cool stuff on there. It does allow for a lot of neat things that you would not be able to get, you know, any other way.
The whole reason I would want to buy a printer is just going on to the website of the guy that James has been talking about with the stuff that he's been showing there. I mean, I could increase my stash by 50 some odd things just going through his, like, you know, like it's a brand new Hyundai Sonata. Why not? I mean, hey, it's only a bottle of resin. I mean, you know, oh, here comes something crazy out of the cabinet. I shouldn't have said anything. It's a 72 Suburban.
72 Suburban. Never been in a kit. Just absolutely cool to have. Yeah. I have like 14 cars up there that I've printed that I still have yet to put together.
Ditto.
That's he's always sending me pictures like, oh, this is the thing I printed last. I'm like, what? But when's
didn't
that
the
going to
last
get built?
6 that you printed? Yeah.
Well, the GT3 RS. There's 2 other companies that have made that car, right?
Yeah,
there's Alpha and there's one other, right?
PZY. Yeah, they've made theirs too.
Right.
And both of them are unobtainium now.
It's true.
So to get a new GT, and I'm not a Porsche person by any means, but that car, when I saw it come out, I had to have that one.
You'll probably send me one that has less broken parts than PZY did too.
This is true.
Still not happy about that.
And it was $10, right?
Yeah.
Or did you pay full price 20?
So if you buy Andre's stuff on Colts, the week that he releases it, it's 50% off. On CTG Trader, it's always 50% off, but it's not as smartly put together on where the new releases are. So you have to go through like 9 pages to find the car that you want.
Right.
So there's advantages and disadvantages to both.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, let's talk about something other than 3D printing for like half a second here. Since I do have like 900 pictures sitting off the side of my computer. How did you get into the hobby? Is this brought in by a father, relative, something like that as a kid, or did you pick it up sometime later in life? Where did you get? How did you get started? Where did you get started?
from my dad. He built models in the 60s and 70s when he was a kid. Of my era, that's what you did when you were a boy. You put together model kits. So the first pictures that I sent you is the first car that I helped with. I didn't really help that much because I was 5, but 1986 AMT Diamond in the Rough. I have bought every single one that I've ever had a chance to get my hands on since. But that is the genesis of my hobby, is that car. Then after I built that as a kid, I went into many, many more builds that I don't have any of those. They all got lost through the years. Went away to college. I built when I was in college. I've always been a car person, so that's always just been a way to further car knowledge for me, and to have cars that I may never get the chance to have. So that's kind of the way that my mind has always worked with it, is I'm building the cars as if I would own them in real life,
Right.
and make the choices design wise in that aspect. Then after college got done, you go through the phase where you find the women and you find the work and you do the living and that. You start the family. My wife and kid bought me models throughout, for Father's Day and for birthdays and stuff like that. In 2011, I was trying to get out of the World of Warcraft addiction that I had.
I'm back.
And
I'm back.
no, you keep telling me to. And I went back into models. And I really wished I never would have quit, because I learned so much, and I wish that I could have progressed earlier than I have. But it's all for good reasons, right? So 2010, 2011 is when I came back in. I have the picture of the Bronco. That's one of the first ones that I did when I brought back. Don't mind the dirt and the dust. It'll never be cleaned. That is just one of those. Same with that 40 Ford. The dust will never come off of it. That is, I save it just because that's a point in time of where I was at. I built the 1.1 Bronco that it's modeled after, with the same style of rack and stuff like that. So had a really good time with that. And then I got involved in the Facebook groups. And at that point in time, so in the early 2010s, or early 2010s, Facebook groups pretty much had a revolving build-off, that it was 2 to 3 months at a time, and they had all sorts of different themes. And some I did really good at, some I didn't do that good at. I was still kind of on the mediocre side of modeling at that point, coming back in, but really wanting to learn more. I stepped into some really big scratch building projects through that time period. Built a slide-in bed camper for a F-350 and really had good success with that. The local group that is here is an IPMS group. They had a World War I theme. They're one of the groups that have not been that friendly towards car builders, to pure car builders. If I built tanks while building cars, it would be a different story. But so World War I was really pissed off at what my options were in cars, because you got a Stutz Bearcat and a Model T in a kit form. That's really about all that you got from 1914 to 1918.
Right.
So I took a wild chance and I built a 1918 Fordson Model F tractor. Scratch built. I built the wheels, and it was a blast. I had so much fun with it, and I think a lot of that was anger towards the group for kind of choosing a thing to exclude is really the way that I took it. But since then, I've always had a love for tractors, but that tractor is pretty special. I wish I would have sent a picture in for that one, but I didn't. Then in so probably 2017 or so, I moved over to Instagram because Facebook had become kind of a hostile environment for quite a few modelers. And like, I don't want to be part of this. I want to go to somewhere that's different. So I went to Instagram. Absolutely loved it. It was exactly the platform I was looking for. A whole lot less words, a whole lot less arguing. Just show what you have built. Shortly after that, build-offs have been a thing in Instagram. I got involved in a bunch of the build-offs and learned a lot. And it's kind of amazing what you can do in 2 months' time if you really put your mind to it. So that's been my biggest movement is through that. I've dabbled a little bit in YouTube as well. There's times when I'm really excited about it and times that it's just not very much fun to build content for a video.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I've had really good comments that come back. I just take my overhead camera and I turn it on while I'm building, and then I just speed the whole process up. And people have come and said, we love you doing that and just showing us building the model. Doesn't have to be anything, and then I can go through and voice it over and kind of put my thoughts of how the kit was going together and stuff like that. And that's been a real positive thing on that. So I've really the social media side of it has really moved quite a long ways.
Yeah, agreed. YouTube's not easy. That's for sure.
You definitely got to have a lot more time involved into it to put. I mean, even a 5-minute video of how much longer that actually is to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
James, on the other hand, he can turn on his camera and talk for 40 minutes and hit publish.
Well, as I say, it's super easy until you do it. Until you realize that, every video you film, you've got to rewatch all over again to edit. And then if you didn't actually talk to the camera for 40 minutes, you then have to watch again while you talk over top of it, and then watch it again to make sure how you talk plugs into the video where you need it to. And oh, hey, that 20-minute video now took you 4 hours because you've watched it 10 times and edited it and re-recorded the time you said the wrong word. Because me, I just throw the right word up on the screen and just keep going because everything for me is one take. But if you're doing voiceover, it has to be perfect because you're recording it intentionally. How are you stuttering over stuff you recorded intentionally? So yeah, it's everybody's got an opinion about YouTube until they actually take the crack at creating content for it.
And it is fun. There are parts out of it, and I think it's projects that I can see me being much more involved in. But a lot of it, I mean, just putting a kit together, not doing anything too crazy to it, not trying to show all of it, it's, yeah, you guys have seen this before already. I've already done this.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, I met you through a mutual friend, Dustin, and Dustin is a tank builder who wants to build cars, whereas we got along real quick because you're a car builder that occasionally dabbles in other stuff. But the one thing that I wanted to ask you about, because it was a little, if you paid attention to the YouTube modeling community, I used the quotes in quotes sometimes, because like it's a community sometimes, and the rest of the time it's a bunch of people fighting with each other just as much as they do on Facebook a lot. But you're huge into the group build thing. Obviously, you were part of running one and did a lot of stuff on Facebook back in the day. The general consensus on YouTube was there are too many group builds and it's just a distraction. But for you, like from knowing you for the last several years, you're almost exclusively doing like group builds. You just sort of, I mean, you definitely put your own spin on whatever the subject matter is. It's not a lurching around to be popular or to do the cool kids club thing. You're definitely putting your own take on each individual project. But talk a little bit about why being in group builds like that motivates you. I mean, I can sit here and go, yeah, I'm going to be part of that group build, and then I look at the kit, and then I fiddle with it a little bit, and then I realize I don't care about what the thing is, and you've watched me peter out of 2 or 3 of the ones that you've run over time, and it's like, but I don't think I mean, I'm sure you probably have not finished some, but it seems like everything you enter, you finish.
So that's been one of the things that I've always done. I've failed to finish 3 out of 5 years worth of Instagram build-offs. Facebook, I could, it's been so long ago that I couldn't remember. So for me, the time challenge is a big part of it, but I love to build to a theme. That is probably my favorite part of it is, okay, what can I do to make this kit fit this theme? And it's competitive, yes. And it's the competitive nature that I have in my head of what can I do to this kit that I can beat everybody else with. Whether I beat them or not, that makes zero difference to me, but that is the competitive nature side of it. That's back to a couple of your shows ago talking about a competition show versus just a we're going to get together show. I love competing. I love constructive criticism. I love feedback on what I did wrong and what I did right. And that's something that I always tried to give in the build-offs when I was part of the organization of it, was try to do that out. It's a lot harder than one would think to be able to do that at times. But no, I love that part of it. And I also take a different view of build-offs as a whole. So with a build-off, I will choose one part of the car to focus on. Instead of trying to focus on the whole car, I'll just decide I'm just focusing on interior this time. I want to try confetti interior, which is a JDM style, and I wanted to get very good at it. So I had to do it a couple of 3 times before I was very confident that I could continue to do this. Then I wouldn't really worry about what my paint was with my body and stuff along the lines of that. If my decals were crooked, I'd just run with it and roll with it and see how it came up at the end. Then the next time I would go and work on the engine and learned a whole bunch of things about how to efficiently wire. And now I can do all of those things in one build, and it's all easy now. Or at least it's easy enough to go that way. So that's the theory that I've went with build-offs, and I think it's really pushed my builds way up in quality over the time doing that system.
Mike, I noticed there was a pretty wide range of styles, automotive styles that you've built in. Talk a little bit about what motivates you from an interest standpoint about.
I am a JDM streetcar guy. That is my absolute favorite style. Wide body of the world, expensive wheels, turbos, and flashy paint. That is the style that I love the most.
Okay.
I don't particularly like weathered. That's something that I can do, but I don't like it. Simply going back to my theory about my builds, that I choose to build things that I would own. And I don't think I would ever own a rusted out car, if that makes sense.
A rat rod or something, right?
It's really hard to do rat rod for me. But this is one that was done in a build off. It was a lot of fun to do. This is decals. This isn't all paint, but there's about 3 different paint tricks across it. This is a wide body that I've used over and over again. It's designed for the S15, but I've got it on a Mercedes. I've got it on a Mustang, and they look so good.
I appreciate the self-customization of throwing your logo on the car.
Gotta put on a little bit, right?
That's right.
Right.
Let everybody know.
I actually have those God hand decals.
I bought 2 sets of them on one of my Hobby Link Japan orders, and I should find some more. So that's the same wide body kit that's on that green car.
Okay.
Just modified to fit. So
did you modify it on the car, or did you modify it in digitally?
I modified that one to fit the car. So okay. I did not modify it digitally to fit. I just started cutting and shaving until it fit the way that it needed to.
Gotcha.
That car I got from a friend out of Northern California, and he had taken the engine out of that kit to put in a car that he had put together. So I bought the car without an engine, so it's got a 1J in it, and that is the type of thing that I truly do love. The purple R32 is a Tamiya kit. It is a wide body that was made by Print Pixel 3D.
Yeah.
That car, if you look real good into the back seat, you can actually see the confetti interior. It's got an HKS confetti pattern on the seats on it.
I wish you had a better picture of that. I'd like to see it.
I can definitely get you some better pictures of that.
Okay. Thank you.
That is so the green car, both the blue and that green car were both done for build offs, but the purple car was done just for me, which is kind of strange to come off my bench to build something just for me. And it has a tube chassis front end. Yes. So basically from the firewall forward, every part of that is resin.
Wow. Nice.
Every part of other than the wire. The wire is not resin, but the
right.
tube frame. So that tube frame, I've taken that exact same tube frame and put it in a AMT 70 Chevelle drag car. Fit perfectly. Got rid of the axle through the motor and the just hoops over the tires, and it's been a really nice setup.
Nice.
I like it, but then I watched you build it, so
that I really like that car. That one turned out really good.
Yeah, there's just some. I was appreciating. There's a Nova wagon that I think I saw on your Facebook page. It's like a '63 Pro Touring.
Yes.
Do you have a picture? of it?
That I do not know.
I probably didn't send pictures of that. That is one car that I don't have.
Oh.
So that car was built as a commission for the engine and the wheel design for one of the Facebook groups. And I built it, and it's got a supercharged 4-cylinder in it. That the supercharger bolts directly to the head. It's kind of a cool setup. And I built it, and I took it to a show in Colorado. And sitting there looking at it, the color on that one is scale finishes. The GT4 Mustang from Tamiya, that gray is like point on point the same color as Mica Gray from Tamiya. Because one of the other guys had built one there as well. That same color car, same color interior. Just one of those, wow, how did we pull this off? This was kind of crazy.
Great minds think alike.
Yes, something along the lines of that.
I want to point out that Mike just said he would never own a weathered car, but he builds things that are weathered. So, Mike, what's your excuse on this?
Kev.
I know what the background is on it, why you built it, but
So the other thing that I love to do is I love to build tribute builds. So this was built, Grant, Noco Scale Auto on YouTube. He was a really great guy. I got to meet him in Salt Lake, and it was awesome to meet him, and he was a really great guy. He passed in early 21, I think.
yeah, I believe so.
And this was built off for his tribute. So that frame that you were looking at on my Colts, this is the frame that is. And yes, I do have some weathered stuff, but it's weathered with a reason. So I took and I tried to emulate what his weathering style was. And it was really cool. At the show in Denver, his brother brought some of Grant's builds to show on the display table. And they asked me to bring that one over and sit next to it. And I spent probably 40 minutes looking between a 60s Chevy that he did and the 60s Chevy that I did, and how similar they were. His brother was cleaning this stuff up and was in the process of packing my truck up to go with his, because he thought it was a truck that his brother built. So
Very
that
cool.
was a pretty good thing. Yes, I can build weathered. I don't particularly like it.
We
All right,
do.
so-
Well, that one looks really cool. Yeah, I like it.
I had to use a lot of Dustin's brain on that one to figure out how to weather, because he's my tank guy. He knows how to weather. I don't. I try. That's all I can do.
Speaking of which, he is in the comments here saying there can be weathering without a reason. Now, Dustin, we all know that weathering on tanks is to hide construction flaws. So he'll send me a few offline comments on that, I'm sure. So here's I don't have any pictures of this otherwise because you didn't send it, but here's a great big turbo on a Mustang.
That is. So
It's a huge turbo.
So that was billed as a build-off car. That was Mustang versus Camaro. And I had got the car. It didn't have an engine in it because somebody had taken it. And part of the rules were, if it was a Ford, it had to have a Ford engine in it. If it was Chevy, it had to have a Chevy engine in it. I do love weird engines. So I found the file for a Duratec 4-cylinder. and I mirrored all of the turbo parts off of the S2000 file pack because they go on opposite ends. So that is Honda parts on a Ford. And I love the way it turned out.
That looks super cool. I
Thank
like
you.
that it's in that 80s Mustang aqua green color too. It's like
Calypso green.
Calypso green. That's right. I remember that from my high school days. Like I was in love with this.
I love that color.
Yeah.
Now, you had just, if I realized it was there, we would have went to that instead. But you just mentioned this a second ago, and that is this Chevelle, because as we go to the next picture on it, this has the same frame that you were just talking about.
Yes.
So what was this for? Because I don't even remember at this point. Like I said, you've done 92,000 build-offs. I can't keep track of every one of them.
It was for the AMT build-off, actually.
Okay, so that makes sense. There's a giant AMT logo on the hood there.
AMT logo. It's got a carbon fiber hood. It has that tube frame set up on it. It's got a 572 with carburetor on it. Nitrous bottles are in the trunk. Resin wheels and tires. The other cool part about that chassis setup is it has coilovers. You probably won't be able to see it in the picture, but you can actually see the coil springs. I've wrapped those with wire to simulate the coil spring on that. This car, the front wheels are magnets to get them on, so you can set it up and pull it off and see the brake disc and see the coilover and stuff like that with it.
Nice.
But it fit really, really well for not being designed for that car.
Did you make it fit digitally, or did you hack it up?
I increased the percentage of it so that it came out closer to a 120, or no, I had to decrease, sorry, because it's a 125th, but it's drawn in 124th.
Okay.
So I think I shrunk it by just a skosh to fit.
Okay.
I love that car.
So here's a slightly wide-bodied first-gen NSX, speaking of thin A-pillared cars.
I love that car. So there's, and I don't know if you guys have it, but I have this, that when I see a car and I'm putting it all together, you see a vision of what you want it to look like in the end. This car fit 100% of the vision that I had with the way that I built it. So super cool car. Wide body kit went on beautifully. The wheels are from the wide body kit. I painted them white because I thought that they needed to have that nice bright pop, which is definitely a JDM style of it.
Yeah, that's a nice build.
Thank you. That one gets looked over on all the tables. Nobody even goes back to look. I'm so proud of that build. And yeah, nobody even bothers to take a look at that one.
Probably because you did it so well. That's why.
I don't know.
That fits into that.
Nobody knows what you did to it.
That's true.
That fits into our conversation from a few episodes ago where we were discussing the thing that gets looked over the most, and that's a shame because it's a really nice NSX, folks.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got. Oh well, this is very. Let me actually crop this a little bit.
Don't worry, Mike. I build box stock, which always gets looked over. But
so this is the thing. Box stock done right can compete with a average full detail of anything. If the box stock is done right, compete with no problem.
Look at this pedestrian rally car. What's the excuse on this? Although, from my racing heart to yours, I appreciate the fact that we put the tobacco livery on it.
So I have a huge love for tobacco liveries, and I have more decals to do more of them. and it was really hard to do this one as the 555 livery instead of doing I believe Colin McRae was the driver of the other car.
Yeah.
So none of the races that he did of that year worked with the 555 livery that I could find solid pictures of. There was all the dots. Like,
Right.
I can't put it together. I have to do this one this way. So I have another car that I'm going to do the Colin McRae side of it and do it the same. So this kit was hard because I was limited on what I could do aftermarket. So the kit came with photo etch, and I could do aftermarket decals, but I couldn't do anything crazy with changing wheels and stuff like that to make it more accurate.
This is the Hasegawa kit, yes?
It is.
Okay. So I thought. Because they're the only ones that make this specific Ford or mid-90s Impreza. So.
Yep.
Only you know that, James.
Well, you know what? Tobacco, all the things.
Yes.
It was, it's a very interesting period in racing in general because tobacco was on everything. It's in NASCAR, obviously. It's the Winston Cup, and there are plenty of NASCAR things. But F1 was tobacco, Rally was tobacco, and really big in those two because tobacco was a huge, huge sponsor in Europe and Asia in that point in time. Because even the rallies themselves were tobacco sponsored. I don't have it yet because it's still in my HLJ warehouse, but I have one. I think it's a Gallant that they just put out where the rally is sponsored by an Indonesian tobacco company, and then the car was. Now Hasegawa blanked all of it out, and it's not in the kit. So I've got the vector file to make the decals should I ever get around to that someday. But it's like everything about that car is tobacco. The livery in the car, the sponsorship of the rally, everything tobacco, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about this because this was, I believe this was. I'm trying to see which. I have two pictures of it, and I need to copy the file names over so that they're beside each other so I can go back and forth real quick between the two of them. But I think this was your, first 3D project that you designed entirely yourself, yes? On this belly tanker?
Yes.
All right, let me get that up here. You can start talking about it. The picture will show up.
3-month build. I had to use it was part of Scale Speed Garage, which is a pay for STL file membership. You had to use some of the Scale Speed Garage parts in the kit or in the build. And basically everybody used the engine because he had just come out with a flat rod or a flathead pack for that setup. So everybody was putting flatheads and everything. I decided to take it a step further and design a belly tanker because the only other belly tanker that I could find was the vacuum formed one, and it doesn't fit right. It doesn't look right. And I started the project probably in 2013, and I'd never liked it. This gave me the perfect opportunity to really play digitally and make something that isn't available. And I've never seen another one like this setup anyways. So this one I took to GSL in Salt Lake. Excuse me. And I won fourth place in straight line racing out of there were probably 200 straight line racers on the table. So
yeah, that's really cool.
I was super humbled to place at that show, and it's a really cool car. I've since made 20 kits that I built to sell, I still have a couple of them left, but that's all that will be made of this one. I've had so many people ask me if I'm going to release these files to cults. And I want this one to be special, this one to be exclusive.
It's just a super cool idea. And I appreciate the fruition of the dream here. I remember you going through the whole process of designing this and printing it, test prints and stuff like that to see it get done, and then have it actually play. It was the last GSL, right?
It was the last GSL.
Yeah. So
very cool.
Very cool.
It's a great achievement.
Thank you.
And then we have two things left here. So we'll do this one first because I feel like we'll be short-shafting Mike if we don't. Because he'll be all like, "Oh, you want to talk about this other thing instead of the thing that I really want to talk about." So this is your favorite build.
This is my favorite build.
Wow.
So with the history of only focusing on one part of the car and mastering that and then bringing that into the next one and into the next one is why this truck works so well. So the marbled paint, the dark red is all marbled. The picture doesn't do the greatest of showing it. It's really hard to take a picture of that truck that actually shows the depth that it has. But the marbled paint I had done on a wide body Mustang the previous time. And this is just the better version of it. Lots and lots of paint on it. So the only thing that is AMT on this truck is the outside of the body and the outside of the interior tub. Everything else is, and I didn't send you a picture. Let me go grab a truck.
Dun, 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 dun,
Dun, dun, dun.
I was saying, sure, just the girl from Ipanema when I'm ready to go.
Insert commercial here.
That's right.
So I should have brought this one out because I knew that I didn't bring that. So the chassis is also 3D printed as well as the floor to the bed as well as the front that comes in, and the chassis keys into it. So it's just at engineering it. Everything worked exactly the way that I had chosen to work on it.
Hold the chassis up again. I was trying to get you just on camera by yourself, and I put myself on instead. There you go.
Nice.
So all resin, all resin, all resin, all resin, all resin. So it turned out exactly the way that I wanted it to. It was designed, or it was built for the SEMA build off, which I figured this type of truck would be a SEMA worthy candidate. So it has a inline with a huge turbo on it because weird engines, and that's me. So it was a long time of a design of how I wanted it to be. I've wanted to build this truck for a long time, but I finally got it done, and I'm super happy with it.
That's sweet.
Nice.
Big turbo.
Big turbo. But all of the inner fender wells are all resin. The floor of the cab is resin. The engine is moved back under the firewall so that I had space for the radiator and the intercooler. I cut out the plastic in the grill, stripped the chrome on that. It turned out way cool. I'm super happy with it. Stereo is all wired in. All the air tanks are all wired in.
Very cool.
Thank you.
I say you get a lot of feedback in the comment section on that one. Everybody likes that one. So
Yeah, trick build.
Well, thank you.
All right. So the thing that I like, and this is just because of the way that this the light plays on this, because we have pictures of it both ways, and because hey, well, you know, I'm a sucker for Japanese race cars.
I know which one this is.
So this is a Tamiya Jax Honda Accord.
Decals from 97.
Let's say 1996 JTTC champion with the original decals. So
there are some issues with the decals on it.
Well, yeah, I would imagine.
But I got the majority of it on without ruining it. I was super happy with that.
But what's great about this, and you're going to have to explain the who, what, when, why's about this, is it goes all rave under blacklight. Ooh, ooh.
So the reason that I found out that it does this, I used clear resin to set the window as well as the headlights. So I used it as my bonding agent instead of glue. And you hit it with the UV light and it sets almost immediately. Doesn't run all over the place, doesn't fall off, works really, really well. That's when I found that it glowed and I'm like, that is cool. I really like that.
Exactly, man.
So I went and I grabbed, because I have more of the Jax kits. I have both versions of the Civic, or is there 3 versions of the Civic? Or the
Yeah,
EG?
at least. Yeah.
The Hasegawa decals don't glow.
Ooh.
How about SKs? Do SKs?
I don't know. But I've found that I use 3D resin as glue a lot more than you would ever think that you would.
So I'm going to pick your brain. How do you get it out of the jar and onto where you want it to be? With a brush? Okay.
Keg cup and a toothpick.
Okay.
Keg cup and a toothpick. So you guys were talking about the printed decals for the dashes, right?
Right.
Yep.
One of the things that I've done for a lot of years is put a little bit of clear in on top of the decals to give that shine of the plastic or the glass.
Right.
You can do the same thing with clear resin. Just dab it in there, hit it with the UV light, and it's set immediately.
Okay.
The taillights on the Subaru are entirely put on with liquid resin.
You just built it up in layers, or did you just pool it?
Built it up in layers.
Okay. Interesting.
And it gives you...
Well, I know James and I discussed this because I saw somebody else do it where they had a short shot body part and they made a floor for it, and then they just put 3D resin in it, cured it, and just built it up until they had it at the level of the kit part.
Now, does that yellow over time or anything, or?
Nope, not that I've seen. Not that I've seen. I've done it for about 4 years now, and I haven't had any yellowing out of that. That's how I put my carpet in. So you put your embossing powder or your flocking in. Instead of doing it with paint, I just brush the UV resin in, and it stays liquid until you hit it with the light.
Oh, yes, it does.
So you can take and shake your flocking on, and you have an unlimited amount of time to work with it to get it exactly where you need it. If you get it splashed up in a spot you don't want, you can wipe it off, which you can't do with glue.
Right.
It is super, super easy to work with. I put out a video on YouTube about my reasons of why you should have 3D resin on your desk, even if you're not a 3D printer.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it doesn't shrink.
It does not shrink because
So there's that. Yeah.
you can use it for body work too. So no more putty, no more nothing. And the beauty of when you put it in, both filled ports on this bed have been filled with UV resin. I tapped it on, sanded it off within minutes of application.
Snap. I'm going to have to do a scale model experiment.
So if you're using it as body work, try to use a color of resin that is close to your primer or your base plastic. The clear gets too hard because it's usually a standard resin, where most of the higher end resins are ABS like, and the ABS like is better to work with on the styrene.
Okay. What's your favorite resin? I'm sorry.
Ceratec.
I'm sorry?
Ceratec.
Ceratec. Okay.
Ceratec. That's craft.
Okay.
Ceratec. Fast navy gray.
Okay.
That's the one that I like the best.
I use the Anycubic water wash right now, but I'm always thinking that that's my limitation in my printing is the resin that I'm using.
So that resin is about $40 a kilo instead of $32 that the standard resin usually is. And you can usually get some better deals on like Sunlu and stuff like that.
Right.
But that being that much more expensive, my fails are almost nothing now. So things stay where they're supposed to, and there's not a lot of failing on that. So I would highly recommend that.
Okay.
What I was going to ask is, what are you using for a light source? Is it just one of those like Bondec flashlights, or?
So I have a floodlight.
Ah, okay.
It was like $12 on Amazon. So that's for my handheld. Everything else goes through the cure machine. So you can do it with a flashlight. Just has to be 405 wavelength to work. So when you go and you're looking, you'll be able to see what its wavelength is. If it's 395, it won't work. If it's over 405, it usually will. But 405 is the happy number.
Good info.
Cool.
All right. So my last question is, and this is the thing we ask everybody, and I think you know that I mentioned it before. If you had the time, the money, the wherewithal to build your dream project, be it a series of cars, one specific model, whatever it may be, what would your Magnus Opus build be?
I think I have too much ADD to have that be even a possibility.
Oh, that's the best caveat I've ever heard.
As you can tell, I've got all sorts of genres of builds. I don't think I am specifically, there is one above any of the others. I love JDM cars, but I like hot rods too. So it's a hard question on that.
Has there been anything that you've been too intimidated to try to build yet?
There's been a couple of kits that I've opened up and I've looked at the instructions on, and I've looked at the kit and I've just put them back and know that it is not the time for that kit yet. The Mang F350. I bought one when it was like $65 to buy one. and it's still sitting in there, and I have not gotten back to it yet.
Here's one.
What's keeping you from it?
You know, honestly, it's having the vision of what I want it to be.
Okay.
I think is the biggest thing with that. And I think that's probably why I've had such the success with the build-offs, is as soon as I've got the idea, I want to see the idea finished.
Yeah.
I want to see that vision finished out in scale. And I just haven't gotten a vision yet on that truck.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I've got a couple kits where like they're really cool. I want to do something with it, but I don't know what to do with it. So it's just been sitting there.
I've got a wall of paint, and I've got lots of different options, but I also got lots of different kits to work with too. James kind of peer pressured me into some Hobby Link Japan orders, and I kind of never stopped.
I tell you what you're going to spend your money on every month.
Yes, you do.
Inside joke from Dustin here. He wants you to build what the people want.
Yeah, I know he does.
That's a throwback to an AMT round 2 video from about, I don't know, 5 years ago, where somebody in the comment section several months in a row kept posting just the comment of, you need to make what the people want. No suggestions of what that might be. Nothing about that. It was just, you have to build what the people want. So we've now taken that and ran with it into pretty much every aspect of life.
Yes.
You have to blank what the people want.
Yes.
Mr. Tester, any last questions for Mr. North?
No, I'm gonna pick his brain offline.
Well, we are at 2:07, so I believe that this is a good place to wrap the episode this week. We will be back on the 1st of July for the next episode. Mr. Sean will not be joining us. He's got prior commitments, so it'll be the original A-Team flying solo. We'll have to try to figure out what the heck we're going to do with that, because I don't have any guests lined up for that show yet. But we hope you guys have enjoyed it. Hope you guys found the episode informative. We took a little, sideways trip into the 3D printing realm, which is, most of me and Sean sitting here going like this. But again, it's something that I'd love to get into. It's the time sink of everything that goes into that sort of intimidates me. And but like I said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And until we see you next week, or the 2 weeks from now, actually, see you guys on the other side.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Anytime.